The Dungeon Minister!
They push into the forest, enormous footprints. Lanterns lit, weapons out. In they go. The cave curves back into the hillside, fills the cave with the sound of running water. It is a shadow. Ogre, sleeping on the ground. Why is he orange? Murder hobos. Oh, no, I missed! Boom! The whole thing is over in 2 rounds of combat. Water is crashing down 20-25 feet. They didn't want to kill sleeping children. But there's another passage. Let's check that out. Now, they're taking a great risk here. They don't think about it too much, but they're taking a great risk because they don't know if there's an exit that way. In fact, there isn't. And so their only escape is now past 3 ogres. Even if 2 of them are younger, still, young ogres are still ogres. So they'd have to run past this room on their way out. This could be very dangerous. But they don't think about that. They go through the passage. It widens out to a cavern that eventually curves around to a crevice and closes up. Along the right-hand side of this cavern is piled an immense heap of furs and old clothing of defeated enemies and, former meals and whatnot. And on this big pile of soft stuff is stretched the biggest ogre they've ever seen. I mean, out of the 5 they've seen, this is the biggest. He has a necklace of skulls around his neck. Some animal skulls, some humanoid skulls. Elves, maybe. Dwarves, probably. Goblins, definitely. There he lays stretched out, snoring. That's an imitation of myself snoring, which is what I assume ogres sound like. They decide they're not going to attack him. He looks bigger and tougher, and is indeed bigger and tougher than the guy they just fought. They're not going to attack him. But for some reason, they send the thief to pick pockets. Now, it's not picking pockets, it's picking bed or something like that. But they think, well, he's the big boss. Maybe he's got some special treasure. Go check it out. So they send the thief. Now, this involves a roll for moving silently, a roll for picking pockets, etc. She sneaks up and does see, indeed, there's a bundle kind of under his shoulder where he's sleeping. He just reaches in very, very, very gently and tugs it out, pulls it out just as he turns. She takes the bundle and backs away quietly back to the party. Now, they missed there was even more treasure further in the bed that he kept as his own. Like, he's the chief, right? So he gets to keep what he wants to keep. But they missed that. Fine, it's not that important. This really isn't a treasure adventure. But they got what he had under his pillow. It ended up being some gems, a few coins, things like that. Trying to make as little noise as possible, they carefully leave the chamber and go back, following the stream, to the room where they fought the guard. Now what do? Do we just cut and run? Some of them say yes, some of them say no. Eventually they decide they're going to continue into the other caves. Again, taking a risk, because their only means of egress that they know about is now behind them. Anyway, they continue on. These chambers do not have the noise of the stream to help mask things. You can still hear it from the room before, but it's getting quieter. The cave they enter now is a storage room. All along the walls they see big sacks and barrels filled with meat and ale and things like that. Things that the ogres have stolen. Frankly, they're not really great brewmasters themselves, nor do they do a lot of bread baking. But all of the food that they have stolen, this is where they keep it. It's a largish chamber. They look around. There's nothing of terrible interest. I think Bob Johnny's takes an onion out of one of the barrels and starts eating it or something. However, there is a passage leading out of the far end, and it goes down, down. Rough stairs carved into the rock. Carved by ogres? No, they're not that big. They're smaller, more like elf or human size. Now, Halder did have, remember, at Halder's Rock, did have a major outpost just north of here. Maybe this dates from that era. Maybe some other group made it. We don't know. But there they are. And down they go. But before they go down, Touchberry does use his sword to heal, I think, Fleetwood, because he was the most injured. It was Fleetwood or Bob Johnny were the most injured. I can't remember which one it is. He does use his sword to heal one of those. Remember, he has a sword +1 and a healing once a day. Cure light wounds. So he helps one of the elves out. I don't remember which one it is. And then down they go. At the bottom of the stairs, they have a choice, right or left. They choose right. It goes a little further, and then again they have a choice, left or right. Again, they choose right. Now, they have started to make a bit more noise. They have stopped telling me how cautious they're being about noise. They think the ogres are all up there, right? The passage widens out into a large chamber, the light of their lantern barely illuminating the far end. They open the shutter a little more, and the light lands on bones. Bones. The floor here covered in bones. They also see chains hanging from the walls that are attached to large pins that have been driven into the rock. This had been a prison at one point. A prison and a slaughterhouse. On the floor are the bones of humanoids, elves mostly, some people, some dwarves. This was where the ogres brought their food, to keep it fresh. This hardens the party against the ogres, I have to say. They don't really care anymore what happens to them. They proceed out of this room, back to take one of the other choices. On their way, however, they encounter an ogre. As I said, they had stopped talking about how cautious they were, about how sneaky they were being, and so I'm assuming they're starting to make a little bit more noise. They feel more comfortable, right? The ogres are all up there, and this thing has heard them. It has come to investigate some noises it has heard. Spear at the ready, it emerges from the very passage that they were heading to. And it comes around the corner just as the adventurers approach. Boom! They stand for a moment stunned by each other, and then the ogre lunges. It wins the initiative round, and it stabs. I don't remember now who it hit, but it does hit. Battle on. Now again, we're talking 4-on-1, so the odds are in the adventurer's favor. Every blow that lands is pretty serious. There's a 1d6 +2 for the spear. They get a +2 bonus for their weapons because of how strong they are. And they do some damage when they hit. But with 4-on-1, it's fait accompli. The ogre does fall. Then they have another moment of tension. Now, did that echo up to the chambers above? Fortunately, we're far enough away that even though it was a noisy battle and it went more than 3 rounds, the echoes don't travel that far, and the noise of the river covers all. Okay. Now, they don't know what time it is. Of course, it's getting near afternoon up there, so the ogres are probably going to wake up soon. They don't know this, though. They're underground, and time doesn't mean as much when you're in the dark like this. So they go into the passage that this ogre came out of. In this room, they discover where the ogre they just defeated had his chamber where he had been sleeping. There's a pile of animal skins and whatnot where he would sleep. Whoever's on guard duty sleeps there. What was he guarding? Treasure. This is the treasury. Now, this is where the ogres keep anything they take from their victims that the chief doesn't claim for himself. They pile it in here. And there is a pile of it. Now, the coins here aren't as high valuable. The chief takes any of the really good stuff, the jewels, etc. But there's still a lot. There is, in fact, so much that they're about to leave the copper and the silver, and then someone remembers, hey, we got a bag of holding. Shovel, 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 shovel. You know, the seeds haven't come anywhere close to filling this thing. So they fill that up with as much treasure as they can, sling it over their shoulder, and now they're going to make their way out. They begin heading back toward the upper level, but on their way, they come to the passage. Remember, when they first came down, there was right or left, and they'd gone right. There's still a passage to check out. And they say, well, let's just look in there. They're hoping for more treasure. They will be disappointed. What they find instead of treasure is the biggest cavern that they have seen in this entire system. It stretches for about 100 feet long. The light of their lantern casts into it, and it glitters on something, but not treasure. It reflects off the surface of an underground pool. Half of this chamber is submerged in water. And they walk up to look at it, and I think it's pretty cool, but they say there's nothing here for us. They turn and they go, which is a good thing, because in that underground pool were giant eels. The shrieking eels! And there's no treasure there. There's no reason to fight them. There's nothing to be gained from it other than, the minor XP they'd get from it. So they don't know it's there anyway. They leave without combat. I'm not in any rush to tell them about it. Out they go. They get up to the chamber where they'd fought the guard. They go through the storeroom, all well, and they resume their quietness. They look into the room with the guard. He's still there. Okay, we haven't been found out. And they're going through the guard room when they hear behind them voices. Deep, guttural, awful ogre voices, shuffling, groaning. The ogres are waking up. The party runs. Boot it! They stop worrying about how much noise they're making and they just run. They want to get out of the caves. Now, they fall victim to one of the classic blunders. Not getting involved in a land war in Asia. Worse than that. They fall victim to the classic blunder of assuming that once you're out of the cave, once you're out of the dungeon, you're out of danger. Nope. They get out and they're in the clearing and they stop to catch their breath and then they hear something's coming for them. And it's coming out of that cave fast. So they run and they run and they run. They just want to get to the road. They want to get to the road to head south as fast as they can. They hoof it to the best of their ability west. And they can easily tell because, as I said, it's late afternoon. The sun is setting. They just have to head for the sun. And they do. And they run and they run. But here's the thing. Ogres are bigger. Ogres have longer legs. And ogres are mad. They can hear the roaring getting closer. They can hear the crashing getting closer. They know they have to stand and fight. So they quickly concoct a plan. Fleetwood stands in the path, turns around, faces back, ready for battle. The other three fan out around to the sides. And as this ogre comes on, either following tracks or listening or sniffing or however ogres track things, as it comes crashing along, it sees Fleetwood. Out of the underbrush it emerges, and there it is. This is the chief ogre, right? He comes charging at them, wielding an enormous axe. Here he comes, and as he gets close to Fleetwood, the attack comes from either side. Bob Johnny, Touchberry, Faux Fire, all attack. Fleetwood attacks. Battle on. This is the hardest. This is the big boss. I gave him like an extra couple hit dice more than his fellow ogres. He's tough, he's strong, and he's ferocious. The battle goes up and down. Fortunately, Bob Johnny still has a magic missile, which he launches. Faux Fire has got her sword out. Touchberry and Fleetwood as well. Bob Johnny swinging the axe. Big fight. Huge fight. It comes close with a couple of them, and Confessio, I do pull some punches here. This is one of the things when you're playing with your children, or 11, 9, and 6 years old, and their mother, right? You play different than if you're playing with adults. If I had an adult group, yeah, well, you took the risk. Your character can die. I'm not that broken up about it. You can roll a new one. It's just a piece of paper, right? But when you're dealing with little kids, you don't want to kill them or their mother if you can help it. So I do pull some punches here. They defeat him. They would have defeated him anyway. He probably would have taken the thief out with him when he went, if I hadn't. But at any rate, they defeat the ogre. And then they boot it. I mean, he doesn't have any treasure on him, right? He didn't. They took the purse that he would have around his belt, and he's not bringing the rest of his stuff. They just boot it for the road. And they find the road, and then they begin southward as fast as their feet can carry them. They don't actually have much to worry about now. The only ogres left are the mother and the 2 children, and she is not going to go off hunting and leaving her children because she knows now that they're very vulnerable. Like all of the rest of the ogres in the party are gone. So she's not going to go anywhere, but the adventurers don't necessarily know that. Down they go, and they go as far as they can before they just have to drop and sleep. They make camp. They set a watch, of course, and in the middle of the night, they hear noises. And I think it's Touchberry who's on the watch when this happens. They hear something coming. Wakes everyone else up. Weapons out, they are ready for anything. And up that southern road comes a group of elves. Patrol, actually, on its way toward the north to try to secure the borders. They had mentioned, as the party came in, they were told that the northern border was a bit iffy right now. Well, this is a patrol of elves going up to try to secure that northern border. The party relates to them the presence of the ogre caves and of the goblins who had been on Halder's Rock, and lets them know that their job of securing the north is a little easier now. The elves thank them and proceed on northward. The party returns to sleep, and the next morning they make their journey homeward. They arrive at Honeywood at night, and the night watchman is not going to let them in. He doesn't recognize them in the dark until finally they open the lantern and shine it right on their faces and say, "Look, we're the ones who helped save Honeywood." Okay. Open the gates and in they go. The next morning they go to Rupert, who forgets who they are or what he had sent them on.
Why do you have my bag of holding? That's where it is. There's something in here.
Now they'd forgotten to take the treasure out. So there's a process of separating seed, coin, gem, things like that. But he thanks them for having acquired the seeds, and he says,
"Oh, yes, of course, I've forgotten. Yes, I said you, didn't I? Oh, good. My brother and sister druids and I will plant these seeds and we will regrow the forest. So, tell me about your adventure."
"Well, we met this Ent, and he said we should look through Hrothgar's eyes."
"Hrothgar's eyes? He said that, did he? Oh, yes. Perhaps it is time you see through Hrothgar's eyes."